Hi, how are you? I'm not able to hear you properly, Adelaide. Can't hear you. Sorry, no.
Good, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Oh, perfect, lovely. This keeps happening to me. I have lots of Bluetooth devices that like to connect to my phone.
Yeah. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me to do this. I know I was a bit reluctant.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for people who've just joined and don't know who I am, hi everyone. My name is Soumya, and I'm the health promotion coordinator at Black Beetle Health. And I'm so happy that I get to do this session with you, Adelaide. It's been a really big learning journey for me. Just today, just this one day, I've heard such inspiring stories, and I'm so looking forward to hearing yours and get inspired from that as well. So, would you like to just introduce yourself to the yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Adelaide. I'm a registered midwife. I'm also one of the health education and resource development officers for Black Beetle Health, for Women's Health and Inclusion. It's a working title. And yeah, I live in London. I'm married to Catherine, and yeah, that's kind of me.
Um, Again, thank you so much for being here. I know you said that you were a little reluctant at the, but yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to it. Like to tell me how your journey started, and how it went. From what age did you realize, um, you know?
So it's not really a straightforward journey. It's been really interesting listening to some of the other interviews today because they both were able to kind of pinpoint a very specific period, like I knew from the age of 10 or I knew from the age of, and for me, it just wasn't really like that. I always knew that I kind of liked women or had an attraction to women.
Mm.
And I but I didn't really understand what I was feeling was attraction.
Mm.
I kind of grew up in a very sort of like, in a family that followed a sort of Christian faith, and in the church, everything is very much centered around husbands and wives, and marriage is kind of sometimes becomes a bit of an icon. Everything's about finding your husband and then having children, and that sort of is really very much a focus, particularly for young people. So even thinking about even having the language around attraction, around relationships, I think that was really missing for me. So I never realised that other women didn't also think about women or daydream about women, or which now it sounds really bizarre to me. But I just hadn't really made a connection that didn't isn't how everybody else felt, because I sort of showed an interest in men and was kind of pursuing relationships, or thinking about pursuing relationships with men, but a lot of that was kind of this ideal of like, at some point I need to find a husband so that I can be married and have children.
Yeah, so the social construct around the whole thing, that okay, you're a girl, you're a woman, you need to marry, to find yourself a husband. So there was a social. There's always a social construct. I think even now that's there around. A lot of people that they just assume that, oh, okay,
Yeah.
happen, and then you're asked questions like, oh, why don't you have children? I mean, things that it gets really difficult after a point of time. You know, um, uh, it, in previous interviews that I had, I also understood that there are always please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there is two parts where like one part of the community it is a struggle for both. I'm sure it's a struggle for everyone. They don't have as many difficulties or obstacles to like to come out and tell, identify as someone with the LGBTQ, or other sides say that they don't.
Oh, Sonia, just hang on, sorry. Apparently there's an issue with the sound, so do you want me to just rejoin the live?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Just 1 second. We'll be back, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry about that, guys. We will reconnect with Adelaide again. And yes, please let us know if you have any problem with the audio or the video. And if you have any questions for Adelaide, or, it has just any general comments that you would like to tell, please feel free to put it on the comments. And yeah, we will get back to you on that. I really hope all of y'all are having a very nice time with the previous two live sessions as well. And I've learned a lot, I know that for sure. And it's been really inspiring for me as well. Let's see if Adelaide has joined in again. Oh. Okay, we'll wait for her for another 2 more minutes, or else I'll do the live again. Yeah. Yeah, David says everyone's journey is different, so it's insightful to hear others talk about that. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think it's also different for me to be listening to different perspectives from so many different people, and they've had completely different journeys. Oh, Adelaide has joined in. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
I don't know if it's any better. I've tried to get a microphone, so I'm not sure if it's better for people. But
people on the comments, if they can just say if it's okay or no, we can continue with yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. So as I was asking you, so there's always two sides of it, and obviously everybody, they have faced their challenges and the obstacles that they had to overcome, but at the same time, there's one part where they did face it with minimal difficulty, I would say, and not a lot of backlash, whereas on the other hand, you have a lot of negativity around the whole thing, and they sort of neglect you, and you tend to feel very isolated and left out. So how would you say your journey was?
I mean, I would say that the biggest thing for me was definitely related to the kind of coming out to myself, more than anything else. And I think that, my faith plays a massive part in this, because what I was trying to do was reconcile this kind of church faith version of me and this other version of me that didn't feel like they could coexist in the same space.
Right.
And I think the actual, this is kind of coming out day, but I've never really kind of done the coming out, so to speak. I had a girlfriend and now I have a wife, and that's literally like me coming out, by the way. So the real sort of the kind of crux of the journey was about me, about my feelings, about whether I could really like inhabit the whole of myself in all the spaces that I worked in and lived in and connected with people in. And what I realized was that if all the things that I've been told about the character of God is true, you know, from growing up as a child, you know, God the creator, that he is loving, that he is, you know, kind, that he is generous, that he created us
Yeah.
in his image, that he knows us inside out, and nothing that we do is a surprise to him, then there's your answer straight away. Like this, you know, you get this sense that he's like sat there tapping his watch being like, oh, you arrived, okay, you know. And I think that was the biggest hurdle for me, because once I'd reconciled that for myself and kind of just being able to bring everything together and have this realization of, you know, social constructs had sort of been masking who I truly was, then I was like, oh cool, this is, you know, let's just live our lives. This is cool. This is fine. So yeah, but that journey, which I literally kind of had with myself, really, I didn't talk to anybody about it. That is probably one of the toughest things that I've had to do.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm sure. I can only imagine, like, you know, the things that you might have felt internally, you know, so many questions and, you know, so many emotions coming together and all of that. I'm sure it would have been difficult to navigate through that. Uh, um, how was the support from your family and your friends when you told them that? And when your friends, like when your girlfriends, you know, they knew that, okay, she's okay, she says she's attracted to women. So what was the kind of reaction that you got from them?
So overwhelmingly positive, really. I I think what happened for me was that I was living in one part of the country. So I used to live in Brighton. I actually moved to Manchester, and that I was kind of starting to have these realizations and this real like internal dialogue, as you know, really kind of facing the truth of who I was at that time when I was preparing to move from one area to the other. And so when I arrived in, you know, Manchester, nobody assumed that I was, you know, heterosexual, that my preference was for men, and, you know, my orientation was for men. There was just no expectation on that. And I think that's partly because of the circles that I was inhabiting. Those people were really just like quite fluid about their, you know, gender identity, about their sexual orientation. And so, you know, it was just really easy to just be, to just exist, to have like really open conversations with people. And it was only really, as I said, when I started going out with my now wife and that relationship became very serious. I've only ever had kind of two other serious relationships in my life, and I only one of those relationships did I introduce to my family. So it was just kind of like, if this is real, if this is serious, which it felt like it was, then I need to just do that next step. So I kind of just like rang my mum and I was like, listen, I've met somebody. And, you know, and I said, and her name's Catherine. And then she was like, oh, okay. And there was like a bit of a pause,
Yeah.
you know, and she asked me some questions about how I felt that sort of reconciled with my faith. And, you know, I said to her what I said to you, you know, if all the things that I know about God are true, or I've been told about God are true, and I've read and experienced about God are true, then he's okay with it. And that was enough for her. And the conversation kind of just moved on. And I feel so privileged to have had that experience, because I know that that is not the case for a lot of people that I'm friends with, and I do not take that for granted at all. Yeah, I really don't. And in terms of kind of telling my friends, obviously there were some friends who, I mean, nobody really made a big deal about it. Some people quite cheekily were like, oh yeah, we kind of knew. And I was like, well, that's rude. You know, could at least pretend to be surprised. Or not. I don't know. It's the kind of normality, like, you know, somebody said on here, the kind of normality of the reaction was something that I really needed, because it just kind of reinforced that all these things that I've been thinking, all these things that I've been sorting.
Yeah.
My friend is just laughing on the chat here because she was one of those people that was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I think just for all that kind of sorting that I'd had to do myself and all that kind of turmoil that I'd sort of had to walk alone, um, it felt like it was really worth it because I didn't kind of come up against obstacles. Having said that, there are some people that I've never had that conversation with. They know that I am now married to a woman, and we have not connected.
Mm.
Our relationship has basically just fallen by the wayside. Um, yeah, and I guess there is a bit of me that feels a little bit sad about that,
Yeah.
but also I kind of think that, we are evolving people. We change on our journey through life, whether that journey is related to sexual orientation or, gender identity or anything. And actually, if you can't walk that journey with me,
Mhm.
then that's where we go our separate ways.
Yeah.
That's where we kind of part. So there was a natural shedding, I guess, is what I'm saying, that sort of happened
Yeah.
after that time.
Yeah. And it's also, don't you think it's a little easier on the person? I mean, they naturally have to go through a lot of trying to figure out themselves, trying to find an identity for themselves. And don't you think it's a little easier on them when people around them, the family and friends, don't have a preconceived notion about them, and to try and assume like, oh, okay, I thought you were like this, but oh, okay, I didn't know. I mean, that kind of a reaction, to me personally, I mean, that seems a little rude. It's like, oh no, why did you say that? So it's like, okay, now are they going to accept me now, or are they
Mm.
not accept me, or will they treat me different? So did you face that kind of a situation?
I think that in within certain friendship groups, there was definitely a sort of more surprise because there was an assumption. The world that we live in is kind of, is pervaded by the sort of heteronormativity and cis normativity, and that is that everybody kind of could subscribes to that.
Mm.
And as I was kind of saying, I think I said previously that I just assume everybody's gay until they tell me otherwise. And I know it kind of feels like a little bit extreme, but because of the kind of circles that I choose
Yeah.
to sort of operate in, and the people that I surround myself with, I guess it's about your framing, isn't it? It's about your framing of the world. And so because I approach the world thinking, actually, who you're attracted to is none of my business, and how you choose to carry out relationships is none of my business. I'm not going to be surprised or any of those kind of things. I might have to do like a mental adjustment because I might have been picturing your life as, a particular way.
Yeah.
But in terms of kind of the way that I would react to that person, there is no need for me to express my surprise or like, I'm just like, cool, okay, let me just reframe so I can make sure that I'm asking questions that are appropriate, or what have you.
Yeah. No, I totally understand, but what seems a little different to me now is that, like, after you spoke about it, it just makes me realize that when I talk to anyone, like, now I don't think that way, but say maybe 3-4 years back, when I wasn't exposed to all of this, and I didn't know anyone personally, who identified as LGBTQ. I assumed everyone around me were heterosexual, until and unless they told me. So that I feel that is how most of the mentality of people is, they think that way. But for someone who actually identifies as LGBTQ, and for them to kind of change that norm, it's kind of surprising that they actually have to do that, to be accepted, and for people to know that, what, that's not, heterosexuality is not the only thing that's there out there, that there's so much more. So it just seems a little different for me, because I am learning so many things, and I did learn from the last 2 interviews as well. And I can only just imagine the things that you all had to face, and the challenges that you all had to go through. I think we had a question here from Harvey. He said, did you feel a sense of awkwardness when other women, for fear they think you were coming on to them?
Because I feel that is that other gay women or straight women? I basically had a whole thing where I spent a long period of my life worrying that people would think I was gay, which is like really funny. I was sharing this in a group the other day that I've always wanted to shave my head, and like I think now I can probably attribute that to my love of Skin, the lead singer of Skunk Anansie, and I'd always wanted to do it, but then I was like really worried that people might think I was gay because I had a shaved head, and like just the idea in itself is so ridiculous. Because alongside that, I had this real desire for people to think that I was, you know, a gay woman. I spent a lot of time within kind of like gay community. Loads of my friends are gay, mostly gay men, and I spent loads of time out on the scene, kind of growing up on the scene, and you know, going out in various different places. And I guess there was something that I hadn't really recognised, which was about a sense of community and a sense of belonging that I couldn't really articulate. Again, I didn't really have the language for, yet I already kind of felt part of that community. And so I was kind of safely like living my gay life, but like not as an openly kind of queer person, which is a bit bizarre. So I don't know if there was, I don't think I was concerned about maybe like straight women thinking I was coming on to them at all, because actually that had never, it didn't ever really cross my mind, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it does make sense, you know, in a way. And so for example, now you said your religion, you felt that way, right? That okay, the religion should accept me, and your mom felt that way as well. Were there people who thought otherwise?
I'm sure there are people that think
No.
otherwise. Those people are not part of my friendship circle. I think what I've discovered is that there are people that I am very closely that love me very dearly who maybe have differing opinions about sort of faith and sexual orientation and how the two coincide together. And actually, our relationship completely sort of transcends that, because it's based on love and it's about love.
Yeah.
And you know, they love me for a person, and I can't separate who I love from who I am. And I believe that I was created for connection and to be full and whole in that connection. So yeah, I think if there are any kind of people particularly that know me who feel that way, we've probably already gone our separate ways. And for people that don't know me, I just think it's a wider conversation that I am not necessarily wanting to partake in. Like, it's not up for debate, basically. This is who I am, this is who I love, and I defy you to say that my faith-filled relationship is not an example of love in practice. So
yeah, definitely. Did you have to, I think that we have a question from David. Do people ask, do you have a boyfriend or husband, and how does it make you feel having to correct or explain?
all the time. But because I am married and I wear a wedding ring at work, people just go straight in like, oh, so what did your husband do? I'm like, my wife, you know, and I just let them hold that embarrassment. I think there was a time where I felt really embarrassed for them, and
Yeah.
I was really holding on to like, oh, this is going to be so awkward, and what's that reaction going to be like? And actually, I've just let that go. You know, I think that we can all be better friends and allies by just being really kind of gender neutral in our language, because we're not, you know, it's not just about orientation, it's about gender identity and all those kind of things as well. Don't assume that because somebody presents in a particular way that they identify in a particular way, you know, and so many other things that we could talk about. So, you know, what does your partner do? Do you know what I mean? That's a really interesting, you know, an easy kind of adaptation to make.
Yeah.
So yes, it does. It used to feel really like, you know, and now it just kind of feels like, oh, let's just see how embarrassing this is for you, or whether you just take it in your stride. But actually, I think we need to learn how to be corrected, and how to, you know, how to kind of accept that correction graciously,
Yeah.
take a moment to apologize even, and
Yeah.
then kind of move on. And I think that's,
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah. It is important for people to be more open-minded, and like you said, not just assume, and be ready to learn and accept when they've made a mistake, and correct it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking about that, did you? What are the typical kind of questions that you're just tired of hearing, and you're like, please don't ask this, please don't do.
Gosh, I guess.
Or any sort of stereotypical assumptions.
Oh, I think like it's really tricky because I think that there's something about the intent of questions that are being asked and the person that's asking the question. So I would quite happily have a conversation about my journey, how I knew I felt the way that I felt about, women or kind of identifying as queer. I prefer to use queer because I feel like it's not straight, and I don't need a label to kind of like really pin it down and define it,
Yeah.
So that's what I prefer to use. Um, and I love to have those conversations with people, but you need to think about, if you're asking questions of somebody, just think about how entitled are you to have that information, like, and I think that goes for lots of things, outside of sexual orientation. Like, why is it that you want to know this? Is it about curiosity? And what does, what's that doing for me? It's obviously feeding your curiosity, but what's it doing for me? And I struggle to kind of think of things off the top of my head, because actually I feel very sort of lucky in terms of the the people that I surround myself with. I guess probably one of the main thing that kind of comes up often is like when people refer to my wife as like my friend, or they're like, oh, this is an interesting energy. Like, how are you connected to each other? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
why is that any of your business, number one? And also, why are you assuming that she's my friend? And we laugh about the fact because my wife is not black.
Yeah.
And so, we always joke about the fact that at least we can't get mistaken for sisters, which I know does happen to people.
Oh.
People just want to assume. It's like, don't assume. Why are you putting yourself in that situation? Just carry on. Just don't make any assumptions. The way that, I had somebody give an example, the way that you would never assume that, an older person that was accompanied by a younger person was, a parent and a child.
Yeah.
Just don't make those same assumptions.
Yeah. No, I think one of the main reasons for all of these assumptions to happen is I would say media is one of the one of the causes. And for people like me who I personally didn't know, like up until now, or after moving here to London, I did not personally know anyone who identified as LGBTQ. So the only exposure that I got was from movies or from shows and all of that. And the stereotypical things that they say sometimes seem normal to us, and when you think, so when someone watches a movie, or and when people pass some comment on the show, and you'll be like, oh, okay, fine, I can do this next time I meet someone who's gay. Okay, maybe I can say this to them. But that's it's very sensitive, and it could actually hurt them a lot, so while when talking on the same topic, I think Harvey's asked, who's the wife? Even in joke, this is hurtful. Actually, almost a similar version of it. We've seen it in movies. I've seen it in a lot of movies and TV shows. Like, okay, so now when you go for your wedding, and then you say, okay, now I hereby pronounce you wife and wife, or husband and husband, and okay, that's weird, things like that. It's actually very hurtful, because people think it's only normal to say, okay, I pronounce you husband, wife, and that's how it should be. And then you go on to ask the next question, okay, so who's the wife in this? Who wears the pants in the family? Things like this. It's really very hurtful for anyone. So have you faced that kind of a thing? Maybe as just a joke, when people just joke about it. Did you face anything like that?
Yeah, and I think what's really kind of tough about that is often it's people that you're close to that might make a joke about something, and I remember once kind of being at uni, we were in a lecture, and I can't even remember what the conversation was about, and somebody sort of made a joke about the fact that, you know, oh, you might not know about that, you know, because I had a girlfriend, and they were a really good friend of mine, and I was like, oh, ha, 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 you know, kind of laughing along and thinking, actually, that wasn't funny, and actually, you know, we were in a whole class full of people. It was like, you know, 35 people,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a joke at my expense, and I felt like I had to kind of collude with that to sort of give myself an element of safety, like, oh, I'm part of the joke, rather than actually I was the butt of the joke,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't really, well, I didn't appreciate that. It was very hurtful. I think what I would say is that the key thing that I have noticed is that even people that identify as LGBT can succumb to those stereotypes, can succumb to the thinking, you know, the heteronormative thinking,
Yeah.
and that sort of preference, because that is the society that we've grown up in. And sometimes we don't even realize that we hold those biases ourselves. And for me, I think I probably had to deal with kind of my own like shame around being, you know, a gay woman, and
Mm.
I, you know, when I like a real prime example is when my wife and I got married. I had this like massive kind of wobble, like really soon after it, because I was like, oh, now that I'm married to a woman, there is nowhere that I can hide. Like, you know, it's really out there for everybody. And it felt really conflicting, because I love her so dearly, and I'm very proud that we've kind of entered into that partnership together. But it did feel like I would be really betraying myself, and I would also be betraying her if I didn't honour that kind of commitment that we'd made. So yeah, even though it was meant to be like such a happy time, and it was a happy time, it was wonderful, it was kind of tinged with this sort of thing of like, oh, you're just out in the world now, out in the world as a woman, married to a woman. So, you know, so I don't know if that answers your question, but it just kind of came to me when I was thinking about what you'd asked, and sort of the other experience that I'd shared.
You felt this sort of shame around, you know, feeling the way you were feeling. Did that happen in your childhood, or did certain experiences make you feel that way?
I guess for me, I guess there's a couple of sort of integral things. So one of the things is that the time that I kind of grew up in, you know, there was a lot of stuff within the church community, and that's sort of my main reference point, about sort of like, you know, love the sinner, hate the sin. So you could love the person, you know, and their orientation, but if they acted upon those feelings, then, you know, that was and I guess so, although I wasn't being demonized as a person, the idea that I could live fully and in love,
Yeah.
and in connection, felt like it was quite distant. And that was a real sticking point for me, even before I kind of discovered, you know, really unpacked my identity and had that sort of revelation for myself. So I would say that, you know, one of the key things that we have to face is erasure of people, of not being able to see yourself represented. I feel like eventually you will get there, but it will take you a really long time to work out who you are, to work out if you're okay.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions I kept kind of asking myself, like, am I okay? Like, is it okay? Am I okay? And you know, if I'd have seen more, if I'd have seen happy, you know, LGBT people, you know, we always see, you know, fraught relationships, and people, you know, not being supported by their family, and people kind of just having really like tough times that end badly.
Yeah.
And actually that is not the truth. for everybody. And I know that is some people's experience, and it is important to talk about that. But let's talk about the happy stories as well. Let's talk about the people living their life in the full, the people that are out there succeeding, because that is how we sort of remove the shame and the stigma around identifying as LGBTQ plus. It is by showing up and showing ourselves in kind of in all the kind of gloriousness that we have and possess and are able to give to the world. I think that is one of the things that I'm trying to do, particularly within I'm in a really loving and safe church community now. And it's one of the things that we do. We show up and we hold hands at church, and we're there because we want the young people that are growing up around us to see that this is a possibility. If these are feelings that you're struggling with or you're, considering, this is possible for you. The happiness is possible. Like, it's not going to end in disaster. And I think that's a really important message.
Yeah. No, that's really important for people to see, for the younger generation to see that this is normal. This is not something that you should be afraid of or you should shy away from. That's a really important message, actually. Thank you for that. If there was something that you would change, in your childhood and through your journey, what's the something that you would like to change? You wish that it could have happened differently.
I think that something that I would change would be a more open dialogue around relationships and what healthy relationships look like, because I think that was really missing for me. And I think that if I'd had that without the gendered kind of norms and connotations within it, but just like, this is what healthy relationships look like when people are connected, I think that would have just really helped me, because I would have realized early on that these feelings that I feel when I had some like really intense friendships and really intense kind of like what I would call admiration for kind of female figures and women, and because I didn't have the language and the understanding, I didn't really attribute that to attraction. And I think that would have been so helpful for me early on. So I think if anything, it would be just having open dialogue and language about attraction, healthy relationships, conversations that were like sex positive, although I don't want to kind of bring it down to sex, because I think that's where everything always goes. That's kind of like where it's weaponized against people that are LGBTQ, because it always comes down to sex, and realistically we're just people in relationship with other people, and that's it.
No, it's really important, and to add to your point, I think it's very important for parents to start having that sort of conversation. It starts at home, and when a child sees their parents being so open-minded and learning new things and setting an example of how a healthy relationship looks like, I think the future generation, they are also open, and it's normal to them, to see two people happy together is actually normal, and that really should be encouraged. And I also pray and hope that that people like me who who don't identify as LGBTQ, they are also open to learning new things, and they encourage that in the family, and letting the kids know that you can choose whoever you want your partner to be, irrespective of gender, irrespective of all of that. And I think that's very, very important to look at that. On that note, I just wanted to ask you, what is one thing that you would like to tell to all those young boys and girls who are scared and don't know, and like how you thought, am I okay, am I making a mistake, what would you like to tell them?
So I guess what I would say to the young people out there that might get to see this, or if there are young people in your life that you're connecting to who are on a journey, I would just say that it's okay. You are okay. You are, what you say you are, how what you feel that you are. and you don't have to justify that to anybody. Find people that care about you, find people that are safe for you, people that are in your corner. Build a community of people that identify in similar ways to you, or you know, are just kind of really open in the way that they can love you. And I know today is like National Coming Out Day, and as we kind of said at the beginning, I was really reluctant to do this just because you know, I don't want people to feel like today's the day. You know, somebody else said it before, like saving up all the energy all year for like the 11th of October, and that's definitely not it. But there is no pressure for you to come out. Like, there are those of us that have been able to come out in a safe environments, that we can come out, and we're doing that work for you. So whenever you feel like the time is right, if the time is right, then you do what you need to do, and don't feel like you need to make a big announcement.
Yeah.
You know, you just find a safe person or some safe people and have those kind of initial conversations. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to say is that, you know, at one point in my life, I would have described my orientation as pansexual, because of the way that I understood attraction, and because I kind of saw myself, you know, pursuing relationships with men, but actually I had feelings about women, and you know, it was very confused. And so it may be that you're kind of coming out is a journey, that there are sort of different things that you want to explore, and there's no need for you to settle on a particular identity or a particular word or a phrase that describes you. And you know, that's part of the reason that I use queer, and I know for maybe older generations that doesn't sit so well with them because of the connotations, but for me it really does kind of encompass this idea that, like, I'm not straight, I'm not normative, you know, I'm just out here doing my thing. And I just encourage you to be you and find people that you can be yourself with.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I mean, I think people should just do it when they're ready, you know. And it's I don't know, like, do you think it's this is something that has to be done, like, you know, for people to come out, like, oh, hey, you have to come out. Oh, okay, you know,
yeah, it's like a requirement, like you've got to tick the box.
Yeah.
Say, you know, no, it's certainly not a requirement. As I said, like, part of my coming out, which is something I have to do all the time, you know, when someone asks me what does your husband do, I then have to come out to that person and say, my wife does this. You know, but it's some of my coming out was me marrying a woman. Like, I've never said the words to any of those people. They just saw that on social media that I'm now married to this wonderful person, and that was their, like, there you go, that was your notification. Like, you know, I think that there is no expectation. Don't feel like you need to sit people down, and like, just live your life in a way that you're able to. My friend said here, like, you know, other people's opinions won't change the person that you are. So just go out there and live. Just live, find safety, and live, and really, like, work on encompassing all of you and all your complex identity, however that might be, because we're not only LGBT people, we're all these other things as well. So there's no requirement for you to do anything. You know, you are the master, or you know, the driver of this journey.
And I also think it's essential for people to look beyond just that tag that you have, and look at you for the human that you are, and what you have to offer to this world. All of your skills, your knowledge, and all of your expertise. I think it is time for people to look beyond, you know, just that, and be open-minded about all of this. So my last question for you today is, what would you tell your younger self? I know I've been asking this question, but
what would I tell my younger self? I would tell my younger self to be bold, because I think I was just really afraid. And yeah, just be bold. Just I don't know, it's really hard um, to articulate what it was that I would have needed to hear.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a bit of me that thinks, you know, I could have made this journey sooner, and I've had to grieve those years that were lost while I was kind of battling and hiding and you know, and so I do feel regret for those that time. And so I guess I would just say be bold.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message, and I think a lot of young boys and girls, I think they need to take note of it. Be bold, and I'm sure things are going to get better for them. You know, because that's what all of y'all are working towards. That's what y'all are fighting for, and even we are here. I am here. You know, I'm here as your ally, and full support and all of that. And I just love the work that you do for Black Beetle Health. And thank you so much for agreeing to come onto this live and join me today. It's been it's been an eye-opening session for me actually today. You know, so thank you so much for all of those wonderful experiences that you shared and your story. It's been really, and I'm sure there are a lot of people. I can see that my mom and dad have joined.
Oh, hi, Mom.
So that's nice. My sister is here as well. So yeah, it's nice that you know, a lot of people are able to listen to the story, and they're all the way in India. So
Oh, amazing. Oh, well, thank you for joining us. And
so
for anybody else who hasn't, you know, yeah, seen any of these, catch up with them all on IG, you know, IGTV. We're going to be saving them. And I just really want to thank Soumya for her allyship. I think my wife's kind of just in the comments there saying, thank you for your questions, for being so respectful. And, you know, just acknowledging that sometimes we don't always have the language, and sometimes we make mistakes in the way that we talk about things, and actually that we're all learning, and you know, it is a continual learning journey, and it's yeah, so we just really thank you for kind of giving us this platform today to talk. And
yeah, so much for letting me do this. And please excuse me if I used the wrong language or said something I shouldn't have. I am learning still, and I also am in the journey of, you know, trying to figure out all of this. And I know it's going to be great. And so thank you so much for today.
Okay.
And so for everyone else watching, we have a last and final session in an hour. It's at 6 p.m. and it's with Ryan. He's all the way from the US, so please tune in for that session. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adelaide, today. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.